Over the past 9 days, I traveled alone through the beautiful country of the Czech Republic, while staying in affordable hostels and visiting some absolutely incredible places. However, not everything went according to plan, so stay tuned and I hope you enjoy the video. It started on the morning of New Year's Eve in 2025, and honestly that's as far as I got before something already went wrong. The very first flight of the day got delayed by 3 hours, then cancelled, and I was forced to change my schedule and get all new flights after sitting in the airport for hours already. After everything was said and done, I flew from Boise, Idaho, to Salt Lake City, Utah, to Amsterdam, Netherlands, and then finally after over 20 hours of traveling, I landed in Prague, Czech Republic around 2 p.m. on January 1st. Hopped on a bus, and then approximately 20 minutes later realized I was on the wrong bus. And I ended up getting dropped off about 30 minutes west of Prague, then got annoyed by that and called an Uber to bring me directly to my hostel. The hostel I chose to stay at was called Hostel Elf in eastern Prague. Not bad overall, but definitely a few annoyances that I will absolutely get into later. But after I arrived, I dropped my stuff off in my room, took a quick shower, and then headed to bed from there. And before we get to the next day, let me just say these showers in this hostel were the most annoying showers I've ever used. There's no handle or valve, you press the button for about 5 seconds of water, but I finished up, went straight to bed, fell asleep immediately, and slept like a baby for at least the next 12 hours. I woke up and got out of bed around 11 a.m. on January 2nd, and went for a quick walk to a few places around my hostel. I walked to Lidl, the best store ever by the way, got a giant water bottle, a giant mango juice, and then walked to McDonald's from there for some food. I ordered a Swiss Junior and a chicken burger. The chicken burger was alright, but that Swiss Junior burger was delicious and I would absolutely order that again and again. I walked back to my hostel, relaxed, read my book for about an hour or two, and then took an Uber about 20 minutes west to my first big event of the trip. I reserved a spot at this really cool underground, medieval-themed dinner and show, and it was an absolute blast. They gave us 3 courses of food, including a soup, a chicken leg, and a piece of some kind of like sweet cake bread, almost like a coffee cake. The food was very subpar, I will be honest, but the show itself was incredibly fun. Sword fighting, belly dancing, fire spitting, bagpipes, and sitting with several other world travelers at this banquet-style table. It also came with bottomless beer and wine. It's rather expensive at $80 a person overall, but I can definitely recommend this event if you're visiting Prague for the first time, whether you're alone or in a group of any size, honestly. After the show, we walked out of the tavern to a layer of snow on the ground, and so I ordered another Uber and made my way back to the hostel. The next day, January 3rd, was without a doubt the best day of the trip and the most eventful. I reserved a spot for another attraction, but this time it was a hiking tour that also included visiting Germany. I was picked up from my hostel around 7 a.m. by a tour guide named Robert, and little did I know at the time, he would become one of the most memorable people I've ever met in my life. Then me and Robert drove together around Prague, picking up 4 more people for the tour. Together, the 6 of us drove 2 hours north to some amazing sights while satisfying Rob's thirst for American country music by listening to the Yellowstone soundtrack on repeat for the whole drive. First up in the Bohemian Switzerland region, not that Switzerland by the way, this is a part of Germany, we parked on the side of the road and hiked about 2 hours uphill to a place called Falcon's Nest, right next to, I don't know how to pronounce it, Pravčica Arch, Pravčica, which was used in the Narnia movies, and rather dangerous near the top with all the ice on these terrifyingly steep stairs, but the view was incredible. And shout out to the 2 British guys who offered to take these pictures of me at the top. We sat down for a moment, then Robert pulled out a thermos, and he had some cinnamon plum tea at the top of the mountain. After that, we made our way back to the van down the hill. Hiking up took about 2 hours, but the trip down only took about 30 minutes, so much faster and easier. Most of this time, I was walking with Rob and listening to his stories and jokes about some of his past jobs. Afterwards, we drove about 45 minutes away to a small hotel restaurant where I had the most authentic Czech meal of this entire trip. My plate included a venison goulash with mixed dumplings and a glass of a shandy. The food was delicious and super unique, but the shandy was ungodly sweet and I wasn't able to finish more than half the glass. And they also gave us a small plate of the weirdest appetizer I've ever had. It was small pieces of bread with a thick garlic spread, topped with, of all things, grapes. It sounded nasty, but I tried it, then tried another one, then tried another one. I didn't love them, but it was one of the strangest things that I'd ever eaten, and I was too intrigued to stop. After the meal, we piled back in the van, drove about an hour north, and crossed the border into Germany. The signs switched immediately at the border from Czech to German, and I instantly felt much more at home. After driving a while longer, we parked in a small parking lot, hiked about 20 more minutes, and eventually the Bastei Bridge in Germany came into sight. It looked like something directly out of a fairy tale, like one of those winter bridges from like a medieval movie or something. We spent quite a bit of time there walking around, taking pictures, experiencing the stunning sights, and it was absolutely beautiful. After we got our fill, we walked back to the van and drove to our last stop of the tour. On the way there, we actually got to drive on a famous German Autobahn, a highway with no speed limits. It was really cool getting to say that I've been on an Autobahn for the first time. I always heard about them when I was back in school. We soon made it to the Tisa Rocks, back in the Czech Republic. This place was a mountain climber's dream. So many rock faces and formations and crazy paths, and even passed through the rocks themselves like little caves. At the top of the rock, we got to see the sun just before it set, a very beautiful, calming sight to end the tour. As we went back to the van and drove about 2 hours back to Prague, Rob gave each of us a little magnet that said, "I hiked Bohemian Switzerland." I didn't talk about Rob as much as I should have in this section of the video for especially how big of an impact he made, but I want everybody to know that he made that day absolutely special. And Rob, if you're watching this video, thank you so much, brother. You single-handedly made that trip incredible. But anyways, as we said our goodbyes, as Rob dropped us each off at our hostels, after all that hiking and excitement that day, I was dead exhausted. So on to the next day, January 4th, was a lot more calm. I woke up decently late, walked about 10 minutes away to a small brunch cafe called Soma, a very hipster little restaurant with one of the best meals that I had on the trip overall. I ordered an Eggs Benedict plate with a coconut matcha latte. The latte was delicious, but a bit overpriced for its size, considering I finished it in about 5 decent sips. The Eggs Benedict was also a little bit smaller than I imagined, but oh my god, flavor-wise, it was one of the best meals ever. The servers were also super friendly. There were plants all over inside, and it was a very clean and welcoming atmosphere in there. And one of the girls who served me was very cute. After paying the bill, I followed Google Maps, still went the wrong way multiple times. Prague's layout is the most confusing city I've ever been in, and even with maps right in front of me, I still got it wrong. But eventually I made it to where I was going, which was Hudi Boulder Karlin, a local Prague rock climbing gym. I recently got into rock climbing maybe about 8 months ago, and I thought it would be awesome to visit a gym in a different country for the first time. Little did I know, that shit was hard, bro. Bouldering in America versus bouldering in Europe is wildly different. In America, I climb around a V5 level, but in Prague, there were several V3s that I couldn't even get close to completing, even some that I could barely even start. I really wish my climbing friend was able to join me over there. I'd be super curious to see how an American V7 to V8 climber would handle in this insane Euro gym. I ended up spending about 2 hours there, then eventually got discouraged and decided to move on since I couldn't do as much as I wanted to. I walked about 10 more minutes away to a local trading card shop, a very cool little shop called Black Knight. I bought a few packs of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards because I'm a f***ing nerd who loves opening packs, especially when I'm traveling. But I walked back to my hostel, opened 2 of the packs, and saved the other 3 little cheap packs of souvenirs and gifts for friends when I get back in America. And after pulling absolutely nothing, even remotely decent from either of those packs, I laid back in bed and read more of my book. I should probably mention the book I've been reading on this trip is called Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I've never been a reader. In fact, I've always hated reading books. I don't have the attention span for it, ADHD monkey brain, like I can't sit and read books. But this book specifically had my undivided attention. The next few days is when things started to slow down and, well, the shit starts going wrong. The morning of January 5th, I woke up and walked just up the road to a beautiful little Japanese restaurant named Taiko. I sat down, ordered a green tea and spicy miso tonkatsu ramen with pork neck, and both were incredible. It looked beautiful, it tasted great, a decent spice level. I could have done with a little bit more spice. Nonetheless, a big bowl of delicious ramen was exactly what I needed, and I finished the entire thing as well. Between the big bowl of ramen and the entire liter of tea, I was so full it hurt to walk back to my hostel. And after returning to the hostel and letting the food settle, I decided it was time for a little bit bigger walk. So I walked several miles through Old Town Prague to check out some of the attractions and see some sights. I didn't really have my map open where I was going. I just walked west, essentially, hoping to eventually get to, like, the river. But it was significantly more crowded in this area of the city. I walked into a 5-story mall, I think it's 5, either 4 or 5, called the Prague Palladium. Bought a few small glass souvenirs at a vendor stand in front of the mall at the Christmas market outside, and then threw those in my bag and continued walking towards Prague Castle. And about this time, as I started walking more, I started getting this pain in my left heel, and I really didn't think much about it. But after about 10 minutes more of walking, that pain grew exponentially. I decided to turn around and start making my way back before I actually got to the castle and everything that I wanted to see. I was kind of wincing and moaning under my breath with every step that I took. Anyway, I made it back to my hostel eventually. I took off my shoes, laid in bed, and just hoped it would heal overnight. I woke up and my heel didn't hurt anymore, actually. I was very thankful for that. But I put my shoes on, left my hostel to grab some food, took 2 steps out the front door, and then the sharp pain came shooting back and I almost fell to the ground in front of my hostel. I decided I couldn't walk all the way to the restaurant I wanted to visit, which was going to be, funny enough, a American Philly cheesesteak restaurant. But instead of doing that, I went to this quick pizza and burger shop right next door to my hostel that I believe is called La Piazza. I ordered a burger with barbecue sauce and red onions. I believe it was called the Hunter Burger. To be honest, the burger was very bland and not juicy, and it just needed a lot more to it. And the fries really didn't have flavor. It felt like they had almost no salt. They just tasted like potatoes. It was at least a pretty sizable meal. That was really what I cared the most for. And then after that, feeling at least somewhat satisfied, I went back to my hostel, grabbed a can of cider from the bar that they have there, sat inside while reading my book and drinking a can of cider. So about this time, after reading for a little while, I got an email on my phone that says, "Sorry, your flight tomorrow has been canceled." I then spent the rest of the night stressing out, calling the airlines, trying to get new flights, and worrying about how I was even going to get home. So January 7th comes around, and I was supposed to fly from Prague to Amsterdam today. I was supposed to spend the night there, finish my trip home the next day. I had already reserved a hostel in Amsterdam too, which means I lost out on however much money that was to stay the night there. So in the morning I Ubered to the airport while trying to get a new flight in person, since calling them the night before did absolutely jack shit. I ended up getting a whole new flight schedule, but I wouldn't be leaving until the next morning now. So I booked a private hostel room at a place called Sophie's Hostel in Old Town Prague. This place was leagues nicer than Hostel Elf. My new room had its own kitchen, so I wanted to at least kind of take advantage of it. I got a bowl of one of those like instant ramens, or essentially cup of noodles, a chocolate croissant, a beer, and a bag of sweet chili chips. I also had a lot to say at this point, many strong opinions and emotions on this trip as a whole. So here's a clip of that describing exactly how I felt at this point.
Yeah, so this trip has been not what I thought it would be. I've done a lot of cool stuff, and I don't want to say that I regret coming on this trip, but I don't know if the amount of money that I paid for this experience was really worth it. It was a very, very difficult week mentally. It took me about 3 nights after I got here to finally adjust to the new schedule, I guess, because we're 8 hours ahead of where I am back in Idaho. I don't know if you can see that. My time on my phone never actually changed to Prague time, and that also made it very hard to set alarms, by the way. So the layout of Prague is insanely confusing, more so than any city that I've ever been in. Even walking places. I went the wrong way so many times while looking at a map on my phone of where I am and the path that I need to go and still getting it wrong. So Czech people, they are very straightforward and they take no shit. Everybody's just coexisting aggressively. Oh my god, that's such a good term for it. They are aggressively coexisting. That's hilarious. And some of them have been incredibly nice, don't get me wrong. Some are very helpful, but a lot of them are just very straight to the point, don't want the bullshit, don't want the small talk, nothing like that. They're just there to do what they need to. So the city itself is, like I said, not what I thought. Like, there's graffiti everywhere, there's trash everywhere. All of the windows on the outside of the buildings are like half broken down and like the wood paneling is falling off. And I know it's a very old city, it's Europe, I get that. Oh, actually in my notes I described it as European LA. There's been one type of music that I've heard here more than anything by a landslide. And that is, funny enough, 2000s EDM. Club music, like Flowrider, Pitbull. I've heard Mr. Saxo Beat, Calambria, We Speak No Americano. Every one of my Uber drivers on this trip has been playing music like that. I'm just sitting there in the passenger seat, just... The people here know this, and they've even told me this. Czech is widely considered one of the hardest languages to learn and understand in the world. And there's been a couple people around the city that don't speak much English. That was a very common thing, by the way. As soon as I tell people here that I'm from Idaho, I can hear it inside their heads. What the f is in Idaho? I've used German and Spanish here more than I ever thought that I would. But so also, I did not do everything that I wanted to do here for one reason or another. My flights all got severely messed up several times. It was incredibly stressful every time that an airplane has been involved in this trip. All flights to Amsterdam now are shut down. I already prepaid for a hostel there, checked in online because I was supposed to be there today. So I Ubered to the airport, got that figured out, sat there for a couple hours, came back here, got this hostel. But thankfully, I really, really like this one. This is actually really what I needed to boost my mood and my morale for this. Then, as I was walking the other day, but my heel, every step that I took, I was limping and I was basically moaning in pain. And that's not fun. I'm very limited on what I can do now. I can't really walk anywhere. So I'm gonna spend most of my time in this room while I'm still here. And that's not fun. I'm glad to be going home, honestly. Besides that, the prices of everything are slightly more than I thought they would be. I've spent a lot of money here, even just on Ubers. At least in other countries, I love taking buses, I love taking trains, and that is my first option, but here I don't really feel like that's an option. Even with Google Maps, telling me what bus to get on, where to get on, when to get on, I've still f***ed it up. I know it's my fault. I haven't really drank at all since I've been here. I was expecting to drink a bunch of beer, have a lot of fun. I have not felt like it. I've had maybe 1 or 2 beers the whole time that I've been here, and it made me feel sick almost every time. I had one cider that I was really excited to try. I got halfway through it, felt sick, and tossed the rest. I don't know what it is. I drink a pretty decent amount back in America. Here, it makes me feel sick, and I don't understand. And I wrote this on January 2nd. I don't think I'm going to travel again for a while. As much as I love exploring the world, it has its disadvantages. It's insanely expensive, it's hard to take care of myself while traveling, and the living conditions aren't usually very good. And on this trip, I've been taking care of myself, and it's not good. Anyway, I'm not gonna read all this, but this trip has definitely made me realize that I'm 27 years old, I'm still young, but I feel like I'm too old now for this hostel crowd and the hostel way of living. I like my alone time. Like, being here in this room alone, when I walked in, my face lit up. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm so happy to have my own place. Like, this is what I should have done since the beginning. The places that I visited were beautiful. Going out of the city was beautiful, but Prague itself is my least favorite place that I've traveled to. After this, I'm not going to travel again for a little bit. It's going to be a while. I'll probably do some different stuff for YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and any videos that I put out besides this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is UsernameNic. It's still weird saying that. I haven't made many videos lately. It's been a little while. Wish me luck getting home. I'll keep you updated. See you guys later.
So after staying in that hostel room for the night and having a great time but still not getting much sleep, on January 8th, I woke up at 3 a.m. with no more than 2 hours of sleep. Started my journey home. This consisted of a flight from Prague to London, a 3-hour layover in London, a 9.5-hour flight to Denver, a very short layover in Denver where I had to sprint well over a mile through the airport with 2 big bags and a f***ed up heel just to barely make it to the next gate in time, and then another 2-hour flight from Denver to Boise. By this time, I was so exhausted, I was hallucinating on that final plane ride home. Dude, I was looking out the window watching monsters fight each other in the clouds, man. Shit was crazy. There were bugs, robotic bugs swarming the plane, dude. Like, I've never tripped like that. That was crazy. But eventually, I landed back in Boise and got picked up by my uncle, and I'd never been so excited to be home. Overall, the trip had a lot of pros and cons. It was without a doubt a very memorable trip. Pretty soon after this video releases, I'm planning on making another one that explains the costs of everything over there, how much I paid, and how much I spent on my trip altogether. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope this was at least mildly entertaining. My name is UsernameNic, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.